slowly rolling into it, and off of corner number 4. It's showtime at Skagit Speedway. It's showtime!
One car with the front of it that was junk, and another car with the back of it was junk. So I cut both of them in half, took the good part of one car and the good part of the other car, and welded them together.
The reason why I decided to, move to Sean's number and use it was just because the memory of Sean was his V8, and I just kind of lived for racing and racing with his number just to remember him by.
Racing, and next thing you know, she's on the flag stand running the, doing flag, and all my quarterback. I'm like, where did you come from?
You definitely have to want it. You can't just say you want it. You got to want it. You got to have that desire that drives you.
I hope they just soak it all in, because you don't know when it could be over.
One story, and that is, I was in the stands and I was sitting down, and there were some older people sitting next to us, and I just looked at the track and I said, "This is absolutely gorgeous. This is a beautiful facility." He says, "You think so?" And I said, "It is." And he says, "My name is Jim Raver."
Give Master Gassers a follow on Twitter and on Facebook. He kind of coined a Skagit Speedway nightcap.
But he would come down and stick his head in the cockpit just before Bob went out and say, "No pressure, just win."
Well, welcome into episode 22 of On the Gas, a Skagit Speedway podcast. Erik List and Blake Anderson back with us after you were away last week for a work trip. How are you today, sir?
Yeah, good trip last week over to Spokane, doing some planning for Skagit Speedway next year. It's right around the corner, but a beautiful day here at Skagit Speedway. The sun is shining. It's clear skies.
It's a rarity.
It's a rarity this time of year. As we're recording, you might hear some loud noise in the background, some just maintenance going around. The facility got some machines running outside, so if you kind of hear it almost sounds like a chainsaw going. Don't worry, that's just Jeff and the guys doing some maintenance around the facility and taking advantage of the beautiful weather. And it's dry today, as we've had nothing but gray and wet skies for, I'd say, the better part of a week now.
Oh, it's felt like it.
Looks like it's fall in Washington turning into winter, but yeah, right now I'd say it's probably mid-50s and sunny, so we're going to take advantage of that. Jeff and the guys are outside working, and got some just small changes around the facility. Yep. It's just basic routine stuff that we have every year during the off-season, so nothing too big and exciting going on, but just figured we'd let you know if you hear a constant sound in the background, not to be alarmed. It's nothing on your end or really even our end. It's just the guys outside working and taking advantage of the nice day, but it's going to be a good year at Skagit. We're kind of getting things ironed out. We head to Warpa here this weekend. I leave tomorrow, or the day this podcast will drop. Be heading down to Portland and meeting Western Auto Racing Promoters Association conference. Get a lot done down there, see a lot of the tracks out on the West Coast and get a lot ironed out. And then I would imagine sometime here in the near future our schedule drops. I'd say before Christmas, hopefully. Yeah. But kind of get that ironed out. And then got some exciting things kind of planned for that. Just a couple minor changes there. And we'll get tickets on sale before we know it. We'll be talking about tickets, so that'll be fun. And once we start talking about tickets, then racing isn't too terribly far off.
Yeah, I look forward to it. Is Warpa Washington, Oregon, California, or is it just Washington, Oregon? What's it constitute?
The West Coast, Western Auto Racing Association Promoters, or Western Auto Racing Promoters Association. But shoot, we get a guy who comes from Tennessee every year.
Okay, so it just goes kind of wherever.
It's really just everywhere. Okay. But it's a fun conference. I enjoyed it. I learned a lot. I mean, I have brought some of the ideas that I've learned there in our conference to Skagit Speedway, and some of them have worked quite well. So it's fun to hear from the other tracks what works for them. I think a lot of them kind of like to hear what works for us here and kind of follow a little bit of our lead, which is great and fun. I mean, and we learn from them. So it's kind of a two-way street, which is fun, and there's a lot of pavement track there. There's been a couple of road courses, some series representation, so it's a little bit of everything.
Well, we can chat more on the back end, too, but we'll get into our guest today. We're joined, we'll give him a call here in a minute, by Jerry Vansickel, someone, Blake, you know very well, promoter at Marshalltown, an announcer for IMCA TV. really a guy who wears many different hats in the racing world over in Iowa.
Yeah, I've known Jerry for most of my life. Yeah, he promotes at Marshalltown on Friday nights. You can watch Marshalltown Speedway on Flow Racing. Some of the best racing you'll see. The stock cars at Marshalltown, I will argue, is the best class at any track in the country on a weekly basis are the IMCA stock cars there, and probably my favorite division in all of racing, to be honest. But Saturday nights, you can find him at Boone Speedway, where the IMCA Super Nationals are, and that was the track I grew up going to. My dad's from Boone, Iowa. He was at the first race at Boone Speedway, and that was where my first races were. And the first track I announced at was Boone Speedway, so that's kind of a special track for me. But Jerry is the voice of Boone Speedway now, and kind of does a little bit of everything for IMCA TV and IMCA, for that matter. They're based out of Vinton, Iowa, which is about a couple hours east of where Jerry lives in Des Moines, and a couple hours east of Boone and Marshalltown. So that's where they are. But Jerry does some podcasting with them. I know they have an IMCA podcast that he's on quite a bit, and a lot of the shows throughout the winter. You can, if you have an IMCA TV subscription, you see Jerry quite a bit, and he's everywhere. Jerry is, as you'll learn, is a man of many talents. He kind of does it all. He's a little bit of a one-man band at Marshalltown Speedway and does a phenomenal job. And that is a track I grew up going to on Friday nights. And Marshalltown was a half hour from my hometown. My dad would get off work at Maytag, and I had to beg him on Friday nights usually to see if he could leave the office early. He worked at the corporate office, and leave a little early so we could get up to Marshalltown. And we go to Marshalltown Fridays and Boone Saturdays. And if get down to Knoxville a couple times, that was only 25 minutes south of me. But Dad says he's not a sprint car fan, but he watches more sprint cars than he'd like to admit now. So I think we're working on converting him. But no, Jerry he's everywhere. So he's done it all. He's flagged. He's worked in corners. He's been an official. He works his racetrack. He does everything there. I mean, he doesn't have really any employees. So he's doing the concessions, the ordering, the track maintenance, the mowing, the track
That's
prep.
impressive.
He does it all. So we'll talk to Jerry a lot about that. It'll be a fun chat, and I'm sure we'll get some stories, because I spent many hours riding up and down the road with Jerry, as he was kind of taking me everywhere my freshman and sophomore year of college to just go announce, and as I was trying to carve out my career in racing. So I went a lot of places with Jerry. We've got some fun stories there, so I'm sure we'll get into some of those stories and have some laughs here. He's a high-energy guy. It's going to be a fun chat.
Well, with that, let's get into our conversation with Jerry Vansickel. Well, this week joining us, Jerry Vansickel. Jerry, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to myself, and I'm sure talk to Blake Anderson is something you do all the time. So sorry you got to talk to him again.
Okay, I mean, I wasn't doing anything but sitting in the basement watching TV and with a bag of Cheetos and a beanbag chair. So, I mean, I'm excited when the phone rang.
Jerry loves to talk on the phone, that's for sure. Jerry, we talked about it before we had you on, that Marshalltown Speedway, obviously kind of the bread and butter for you, and Boone Speedway. So, to me, that's kind of the two, when it comes to IMCA racing, the two marquee tracks in the country. And Marshalltown, you know, what's the average week look you for at Marshalltown? I was telling Erik that you are everything there. I mean, you're the one-man band. You do it all.
Yeah, I mean, the average week, Blake, I mean, it starts on, Monday, just getting, Monday's kind of an office day, and then Tuesday's up dinking around. And, we try to always, blade the racetrack Friday night, so it gives us couple days off. And when I say us, that's me and whoever decides to tag along that day. And then Wednesday start getting after it, food, pop, and beers start to arrive, and work the racetrack during the day, and involves the watering at night, depending on what the weather and stuff does. But there's always something to do, something to fix, something's broke, something you just got to cobble together, it seems like, to get you from Friday to Friday. You spend a couple days just maintenance on equipment and things like that's the biggest part. Got an old boy that he likes to just sit on the mower and run the weed eater, and he keeps the place looking nice, and I just do the rest, I guess. And then Friday everybody shows up and we have some races and then start it all over again.
Central Iowa Fairgrounds, the place to be on Friday nights back home, Erik.
Jerry, I was watching with my dad your the Harvest Hustle from this year.
Yep.
Just to kind of try to get a feel for what you have over there in Marshalltown. I know about it, but I don't know well about it, to be honest. And it seems like you run a top-notch facility. what's your favorite part, you think, of what you have to do working there?
My favorite part is getting the racetrack ready. Just doing the track prep, making sure that everything is ready to go, and making sure that everything can go off without a hitch. On race night, race night is always the most stressful night, just because you got so many things going on and you're deciding which hat you want to put on. But the day or two before, the night before, when it's calm and there's nobody there, those are my favorite times. When I'm there by myself, and then you just get to watch, at the end of the night, the end of the race night, you sit back and you look and you're like, that's pretty badass. And then you just got to be like, I did that, and I did that with the help of, a handful of people that are as passionate about it as I am. And that's, I think, the biggest enjoyment is knowing that you just accomplished something. Like that weekend, we accomplished so many things at Marshalltown that have never happened. We had race cars pitted every place we could put them. We had them pitted outside of turn 1 and 2, which has never been done before. We had 284 cars, which was a record. We had 239 at that event the year before. And, we added late models. So that added 3 cars, but even adding 23 cars, we were still above what we had the year before.
Wow.
And it was crazy. Just people that had never been there before and raced.
I thought it was a phenomenal event. I'm sorry, continue.
Oh no, it was just, there was so much, there were new people. I mean, the kid that won the hobby stock feature had never been to Marshalltown. It was his first year in a hobby stock. And the guy that finished second was been a points champion there, races there weekly. He's won multiple features there. And this kid just beats him. And he was so excited. And it was, I'm like, wow, that was pretty badass, and kid is 14 years old.
Yeah.
Those are the neat little things that I sit back and just am like, wow, how does that happen?
What are you? I don't even know, Jerry. To be honest, are you going home on Friday after the races? After you guys blade the racetrack, or are you staying in Marshalltown and then heading over to Boone on Saturday? Boone's about an hour up Highway 30. Erik.
Yeah, no, it's home, and I always tell everybody, and nobody believes it, but I had one guy was like, I drove by this morning and you were here at 5:30. And I seen him at Boone on Saturday, and he says, what time did you get home? I go, 5:30. And he goes, so I go, and I had to wake up at 4:30 to get to Marshalltown by 5:30 and leave there at 4:30. So, there are times at Marshalltown where Fridays are 24-hour days.
Wow.
And but that's what you got to do to have a successful program, is you just, it's pour your heart and soul and every second of the day into it, and especially on race day. Just because that last checkered flag falls doesn't mean there's not 5 or 6 hours worth of work to do afterwards.
What's this year been like? I feel like this year you have transformed Marshalltown really more than what we've seen in recent memory. Obviously, you added the backstretch wall there that has really kind of almost transformed the look of the speedway, but also added a little bit of a catwalk back in 1 and 2 that had disappeared since the derecho in 2020. Yeah,
Marshalltown's never really had a wall down that. I mean, the only wall it's had is coming off of 4 and down the front straightaway. And, it's kind of one of those things where, you got to be like State Farm. You got to be a good neighbor. And, over the years, there's been some grumbling with the people that own the property off the back straightaway that were like, you're racing on the property. And, everybody would be like, I don't know why they're complaining. I don't know why they're complaining. And I'm like, well, I know why he's complaining. I said, we're racing 20 foot on their property. And I said, here's what happens. I said, you go down the backstretch and you turn that thing sideways. And I said, you're up against that big dirt wall in the back straightaway. And here comes the guy late to the party running 24th. And he center punched you in the door. And I said, worst case scenario, it's a fatality. Where'd that accident happen? And he goes, on the racetrack. I said, you're racing 20 foot off the property. It happened on his property. He's liability. And we've had cars get out into their property before. And, it's kind of one of those things that some stuff had got damaged and some things like that. And knew it was time and just made that, bite the bullet. Hey, what do we got to do here? And met with the business owner that owned the property. And he says, this is what I'd like to see. I can make that happen. And that was a fence that had been, a thing that had been broken years ago just because of nobody's fault. And once that wall went up, it was like, hey, I need a tractor. Yep, just come on over and get it. Yep, you need a load of rock. Come over and get it. And it just opened an avenue to be able to mend that fence and get some help from that. Because it's a construction company, they got material and stuff that we need, or could use. And it then of course, it made him happy, but then it was like,
Uh-oh.
Sorry, Blake's pushing buttons. Hang on.
what the heck?
You got some music in there, Jerry.
Sorry,
Press
Jerry.
the button.
I didn't know Crazy Martin was going to pop into the podcast or what was going on.
Yeah, well, boy, we could add that in. That'd be a heck of a surprise guest.
But then the racers were like, "Oh, you killed the place! You killed it! Oh my!" But we did everything with, making sure that when we had to reshape the top of turn 1 and 2 to where it would carry you, where if you got up there on the top before, as Blake knows, and as many people that have watched Marshalltown, it fell off. You fell off the top of turn 2, or you couldn't race up there. And so we added dirt, and we rebanked it, and we reshaped it, and had a practice with that wall there. And I just walked around and says, "What do you think?" Think about what? The backstretch. Yeah, it's there, but you don't notice it. What you guys did, so it was a lot of thought went into that project to make sure that we didn't take away any racing that Marshalltown's been known for. A good 2, 3, and 4 wide racing. We didn't want to kill it by putting a wall up. So we had to put some thought into it.
So it hasn't, in your view or the driver's view, really changed how Marshalltown races at all?
I think it's actually helped it.
Really?
It's helped it because it's given us more. It's given us more of an even lane around the top and an even lane around the bottom.
Okay.
What exactly you're looking for. You're looking for 2 lanes in a racetrack, and then you got that middle. So I think it helped. I really do. I've located about a mile worth of guardrail that we're still going to work on some projects, and it may, it's going to include a wall in turn 1 and 2. And I think that's also going to change the way the place races. It's going to give us a little cushion up there, build a cushion. It's going to, we're just always looking to strive to make what we already have better, just like every racetrack. How do we make it better?
That's interesting to hear you talk about putting a wall in 1 and 2, because I feel like it's so vastly different compared to racetracks that have walls all around the outside, or a racetrack like yourself or Lernerville that seem to have, you go off the backside of 1 and 2, 3 and 4, you're out into, wherever. And I think it just adds so much character, but it's interesting to hear you say you want to put kind of a wall out there and change that a little bit.
Yeah, I think 2 things. It's safety. I mean,
okay, which makes sense.
You get off the top of turn, and Blake can testify to that because he's been back there. But you get off. It's a 2.5 to 3 story drop.
Yeah.
If you leave the racetrack, and get to flipping, and we've seen it. When you get out there, it's a ways down there. And if you can keep them in the park. It does so many, putting a wall, a racetrack with a wall does so many different things. It creates a little safer, keeps you in the park. It keeps your dirt in the racetrack. Your racetrack doesn't move because what a lot of people always complain about at Marshalltown is, the banking's gone. You keep cutting it. There's no high banks here no more. Well, the reason high banks is from 2006 to current day, the middle and the top of 3 and 4 and the middle and the top of turn 1 and 2 is pushed out 15 foot.
Wow. Because
you just keep throwing dirt and throwing dirt and throwing dirt, and it builds, it widens it out. So, we try to be pretty proactive and push dirt back every year and throughout the season. But, if you can put a wall up or a way to stop the racetrack from getting wider, it changes the way it races.
Yeah, that's going to be fun to kind of watch how the dynamic changes at Marshalltown, because you do have such a good, really racing surface. As I said, I think that you have one of the best surfaces in the country week in and week out. The IMCA stock cars there are elite. And I'm excited to see what changes come from that. Do you have any big plans for next year, race wise? I know you haven't. We were looking today. Schedule not released. Are you going to throw any curveballs at us? I mean, you don't have to announce them, but do you have anything up your sleeve?
I'd like to. I'd like to say we're going to have a flow night in America, but I don't know that that's going to happen. There was about 2 opportunities to get a super late model race back at Marshalltown, and as we've seen in the last 5 years, when the super late model, when the Hudson O'Neills and the Bobby Pierces and the Davenports and the Ryan Gustins and the national touring guys come to town, I mean, it's the who's who of both touring series, and I can't find one guy that has said anything negative about Marshalltown.
It's been incredible racing. Both I was showing Erik the clip from Marshalltown at our first flow racing night in America Racing 23 with Bobby and Hudson when they were on. Huddy was literally off the wall there and banging off that tire in turn 4. That clip is incredible.
Yeah, and that was, the gang at Performance Bodies, that's when they were just coming out with that MD3, the plastic body, and they were like, that is the perfect scenario of how that body works. Because it did. And what a lot of people don't realize is when Huddy comes off of that dirt mound across the top of the guardrail, the back of the car, when it comes down and drives down off the guardrail, is 4 foot in the air.
Jeez, I didn't realize that in the video.
It's it's crazy. And he goes on to win that thing. Huddy's won all 3 nights, or all 3 years at the we've had that flow night in America. But it just worked. I hate it that I'm not saying we're not getting one. But right now, it's not looking very promising with where the 2 national touring series are going and when they're going. And, there's names you want to have, can't have a super late model race at Marshalltown and not have Ryan Gustin.
And that's what, Ryan Gustin, he's from Marshalltown. Yeah. The Gustin family is synonymous with Marshalltown Speedway, father, mother, sisters, brothers. They've all raced there.
You look at that DeFrance, Gustin, Murdy, O'Keefe, all that family.
Dallon's going super late model racing next year.
Yeah, and that's pretty awesome.
Tyler Bruning.
Yeah, he's going to go run the Tyler Bruning 13 car. I know he's moved up to the core already. They've got him, getting him settled in. I know he did some testing in that car here maybe a month and a half or 2 months ago. They did a bunch of testing in that thing. And that's pretty cool. I remember when Dallin first started racing a go-kart when he was 3 years old, and, you just knew that there was some talent there. And then, that's one of those things, seeing a Ryan Gustin and seeing a Dallin Murdy that raced at a racetrack that you promote or race at a racetrack that you announce or you just work at, that you can say, hey, that I got to see him win his first feature. I was there when he did this, and I was there when he did that. So it's awesome that those 2 guys. Ryan didn't race Marshalltown much because by the time he was,
he was 17, 18. He was USMTS.
Yeah, he was already out running touring stuff. At 16, he was on the road.
Yep.
So he didn't spend the time there that like Janae and Richie and Jimmy. And Dallin did, but
RTJ for that matter too.
Yeah, RTJ was there. So it's pretty kick-ass to know that, even like out there at Skagit, when those guys, go out and win a big race out there, it's like, yeah, that's one of our locals.
Yeah, it's fun. You take a lot of pride in it, and it's been cool to see. You guys have had a lot of talent come through Marshalltown, I'd say, the last decade. Growing up, we didn't really have many of our locals that ran modifieds. Erik, they kind of ran modifieds, and that was where they ended up staying. But, You look, I'd say the early 2010s, mid 2010s, it kind of shifted where guys are moving to Iowa to run a modified and using that as a platform to get to the next level. And there's a handful of late model drivers out there, super late model drivers on these national touring series that they spent 2, 3, 4 years carving their teeth at Marshalltown and Boone on Friday and Saturday nights. And Jerry announced a lot of their wins through the years.
Oh, exactly. And that's, you look at some of that stuff, Blake, like you take the open wheel world, look at when the Australian invasion started with, Skip Jackson and Mac Stunney back in the mid 80s. Those guys knew that there was something. Mm-hmm. There was something about coming over here and racing and then going back home in the winter. And then of course, a lot of them just said, hey, we're going to stay here in the States.
Move here.
And, and that happened too with, you take a look at like Tim Ward, Tim Ward at like 15 and 16 was living in Beatrice, Nebraska. And then he was racing at Beatrice, and then he'd go home and race in Arizona and go back to school. And then he'd come up, and I think he spent a summer with, of all people, Mike Juergens. And,
that's a summer.
My 17-year-old kid to live with him.
Oh,
but
boy.
And that just transitioned from coming out of the Southwest, knowing, Tim's dad, Rick, was a very credited IMCA racer in Arizona. Mm-hmm. And he knew that if Tim was going to do this and do it full time, and this was going to be his job, he had to go to the Midwest. And then that opened the door for Ricky Thornton moved this way. Then it was the Ethan Dotsons and the, I'm just trying to think.
Tom Berry Jr. came from Oregon to live out there.
Tom Berry Jr. from up in your guys' neck of the wood, and now you take, like a guy like a Trevor Fitz and Xander Keel, just some guys that they picked up their lives from the West Coast. Zane DeVilbiss.
Yeah, New Mexico.
He moved to Marshalltown. And when you ask these guys why Marshalltown or why close to Marshalltown, and it's because we want to race there. And, it's pretty awesome knowing that you've got what I would consider a fairgrounds facility that is, your regular run-of-the-mill, just nothing special, but it puts on some of the best racing in the country.
It's interesting to hear you say that, and then Blake had told me, because I'd asked, you're now Marshalltown Speedway, but on your website, and I've seen some of your articles, you say America's bucket list track.
Yeah, I always looked at it's like, and I always kind of chuckled about it. It's like, Roger Hayden's got Eagle Raceway, and it's America's badass home track. Or this racetrack has got a slogan, and this racetrack's got a slogan of this and that. And, I was like, oh, yeah, whatever. Well, in my travels, going out and announcing racing or, going to the Dome or just being anywhere, not within a 2-hour radius of Marshalltown, it would be, God dang, Marshalltown. That's on my bucket list. I want to go there. Racers and fans. Man, we watch it every Friday night. Man, it'd be such a great opportunity and a bucket list track to go to. And and I kept hearing bucket list.
Okay.
And I was like, I've always thought those slogans were corny, but this one hits the nail right on the head. So I called Chris Burke at Capital Signs. I said, I need you to make me a logo quick. And here's what I want. He says, I go, use the existing, but right across the racetrack, right across the bottom, America's bucket list track. And it stuck, and and it stuck in a good way and it stuck in a bad way. We had a bad night one night, and he goes, oh, this is what America's bucket list track is. And I'm like, you know what? F you, bud. You ain't been here for 48 hours trying to get this place ready, and we screwed up, but it was just like, I was just down at Springfield Raceway this last weekend at the Turkey Bowl. And, there's no IMCA racing down there. It's either you're right in that open mod, UMP, Power I. You're down in that weird kind of part of the country that doesn't really have one good, strong sanction. And everybody just, man, we want to go to Marshalltown so bad. Man, we want to go to Marshalltown. That place is awesome. And it stuck, you know. I mean, it stuck to be a pretty good slogan. And I think it's, you know, I like to say that, you know, I don't know why, I don't know how, but it's become that bucket list racetrack everybody wants to go to.
I like that you've named it that. I think that'd be on my bucket list, and it sounds like it deserves the term with the amount of people and drivers and teams that want to come and race there.
Yeah, I mean, and I think a lot of it is you know, the time, the effort. You know, I've always been one of those people, and Blake can contest to it. You know, I want that place to look like my house. So when you pull up the driveway, there ain't a speck of grass out of line, and it's striped, and everything's got. Same thing at the racetrack. You get one chance for that wow factor, and if you can't wow the people when they come in, you know what, that was kind of one of my biggest things the first year was, you know, I'd been at Marshalltown, you know, this will be my 20th year being there, in a facet of many different roles. But it's always like, you know, you look at it, and some of the things with it being on the fairgrounds is out of your control. You can't paint the buildings, you can't, you know, the other buildings, but you can take care of when those people walk in after buying a ticket, what they see. And it's the stripes, and you know, it's the infield mode and striped. Everything looks painted and clean, and you know, I think that right there, when people see that, they're like, man, they put a lot of pride in this place. It you know, and they know it takes a lot to keep it that way, and then they know you're putting the effort in. And I really think that's what, you know, I've always said, a coat of paint can go a long ways.
Yeah.
It does. I can attest to that. I remember my first time going to Eldora before Roger Slack had got it. It was just, it needed that coat of paint. And then I went back a year later, Roger's first year there in 2012, and the place was painted. It was bright. It was vibrant. It was like, it was not the same racetrack that I visited in April of 2011 compared to July of 2012 when I went back out there. It goes a long ways. It really sets the tone for your facility, and I can attest. I mean, Jerry's house, I spent a lot of nights, you know, in the basement was my bedroom for quite a few nights, and we can talk about that. I mean, the summer I stayed in Boone and working at the garage, washing cars, and Jerry was the service advisor up front at the Ford dealership, and we'd get off work at 4:00. It would bust tails to hope that we could get out before 5. And hop in the car, drive to Ogden to Don Williams, and pick up Crazy Martine.
Hello. And no, I mean, a lot of it is, you know, perception and visual. I mean, that's what everybody, they see that, you know, and you know, going back to last weekend, I was at Springfield. This guy walked up to me, didn't know him from Adam, and he says, I want to say he goes, I come back home during the summer once. He goes, once a year. He says, I always come back home. He said, I'm born and raised in Marshalltown. I moved down here. My job moved me down here when I was in my late 20s, but we always go back to Marshalltown during the summer. We always go back to see family, spend the weekend, and I always go to the races. And he says, I'm going to tell you, in the last 2 to 3 years, every time I come up there, I see something new. I see something different. I see an improvement. And I just want to let you know that being a local person that grew up going to the races there, I'm glad to see you guys do what you do to keep that place being one of the best racetracks in the country. So, I mean, people notice that kind of stuff.
So I've got kind of a multi-part question here. First, when did you take over as promoter of Marshalltown?
This would have been my 4th season being a thing. So we're working, 4 years ago.
Okay. And now you say you've been involved 20 years. How did you get involved? How did you get your first start at Marshalltown Speedway?
Well, it was kind of like my first time I went to Marshalltown had been 1987. I remember going down there. My dad was, I always say, before all these streaming companies and all this, there was a guy here in central Iowa named Jerry Vansickel, owned a company named VCR Action Video, and he traveled around videotaping the races.
Okay.
And so that's kind of, I mean, from day one, there's always a story. My dad always said, I was mad at you because I had to miss a Saturday night of races because you decided you were going to get, he says, if you would have been born on the 16th, you'd have been born on the race night, but you screwed around and waited till the races were over and were born on Sunday morning. And you'll have that. These are bigger events. And so, it was kind of like it's not bred into me, but I mean, my dad, he dinked around. He had some buddies that raced cars, and he always kind of helped out at the local racetrack and did some things like that. So then, he started videoing races, and then I started knowing promoters, and I knew at a young age. I mean, my biggest thing, I always wanted to be the flagman. I thought the flagman was the coolest dude at the racetrack. And, announcing was never in my radar. It was never in my wheelhouse. It was never something I always wanted to be I always knew I wanted to be on the officiating side, or being on the side of working the races and not just being a fan and not being a racer. So as I got older, just started helping out, working a corner or helping in the tech area. And then, Toby Cruz got promoter, he was he got the lease, 19, 20 years ago at Marshalltown, and we'd done a lot of racing stuff together and worked a lot of shows together. And he says, you come to work Marshalltown on Friday? I said, yeah. I said, I suppose. I said, I don't see why I can't be there. And, just was there and, did everything from working a corner to flagging. As everybody knows, I announced for so many years. And then Toby just kind of got, like people do, you just get burned out. Mm-hmm. It's time to make a change. And he says, hey, I got 5 years left on this contract. You want to run this thing? And I'm like, yeah, I'll give it a shot. So
here we are.
Just decided that this is what I'm doing. And, it has its days where it's a pretty fun gig. And then it's got its days where it's like, why did I even think about I want to go back 4 years and kick that dude in the nuts.
I can picture you, Jerry. 2006 was Toby's first year there at Marshalltown because that was my first full season announcing at Boone Speedway. I started at Boone in the summer of 2005. But I can picture you working turn one, running, grabbing debris on the racetrack and just running all over the place. And it was, I don't know what was more entertaining. It's stuff that Dad and I laughed at more, Denny Grabenbauer dropping jokes announcing, or Jerry out there doing something crazy on the racetrack as an official that made you just want to close your eyes, but somehow he pulled it off.
Yeah, I say that there are days that I don't know how I've never been hit or killed or what.
Can attest to that.
There's a picture of me, and it was because if anybody, and Blake can testify, to it. I absolutely, positively, strongly dislike, because I don't use the word hate much, cautions for debris.
Uh-huh.
If you can get it, get it. And there was, it's one of those deals, we've seen it at Boone, I've seen it all over. And it was like, there's one night, guy lost a bumper, guy running, last in the heat race, bumper comes flying off in the middle of 1 and 2. And I'm like, I got this. I keyed the radio. I said, just talk to me. Took off in a dead sprint, grabbed that thing, picked it up, and went, oh, shit, this is full of lead. And it was a struggle, but just made her back across. But, stuff like that, you just got to, you just do it. You don't think, you think about it, but you don't think about it. You just do it because you know that, why do we got to stop the yellow? Why do we got to stop the race if I can go get it?
I can picture Erik. It would have been summer of 2009 because it was when I was living in Boone, there for college. And you'll know the story where it ends that night, but I drove us to the races that night, and you were working a corner at Webster City in 1 and 2.
You and Jerry, or you and your dad? Okay.
Jerry. Yep, Jerry, sorry.
And Yeah, it was a fair race. I was doing a little bit of everything.
Jerry was working in turns 1 and 2 that night, and they had a wall, and they just had the K-rail that was the wall on the outside, one level K-rail. Jerry went sprinting across the racetrack, half-mile racetrack, so pretty wide.
Yeah.
A fender. He grabs the fender and jumps over the K-rail to get into the pit area there, and the race has stayed green. And it's stuff that, I mean, you just laughed at, but now if you saw it, you'd be like, oh, my
think that would fly
God.
now.
What is that guy doing? But, I mean, you didn't really think much different of it growing up because you just saw it on Saturday nights at Boone, Marshalltown, whatever. But Jerry did that, and then the drive home, it was a late drive home, and I got pulled over in Luther. Or it was Luther.
Stanhope, you dummy.
There we go. Yeah, Stanhope.
Let me tell this story because this story. So I went to work like at 5:30 that morning or something. I can't remember. It was
early because I'd come in at 7.
Yeah, it was a fair race, and I mean there was 170 or 80 cars, and we had them pitted in the infield. We had them pitted outside turn 1 and 2, and it was like 1:30, and we were leaving. We're going down the old 2-lane. Yeah, AM.
Working 4 hours.
Yeah, I said, Blake, I got to be working 4 hours. I'm going to sleep. Now, when you get close to Stan, I go, you know where that little Country Relics place is? Yep. Don't speed from there to the TNT Tower. Don't. I lay the seat back, and next thing I know, I hear, oh, shit. And I'm like, I pop an eye open, and I'm like, I told you. And sure enough, here he comes. He comes up behind us. And I said, just let me handle it. He goes, where are we coming from? I said, we're coming back from the fair races. I said, we're just headed home to Boone. I said, I'm just trying to get some sleep. I told this dumbass, don't be speeding.
He did.
I told him, if you get from here, I said, that Ellsworth Jewel Stanhope cop, I said, he's a stickler. He's going to get you. And he looked and he goes, Vansickel? I go, yep, it's me. And he says, all right, give me a second here. And he runs Blake, and I looked at Blake, and Blake's just white. He goes, what are we going to do? What are we going to do?
I hadn't had a ticket.
Is that your first time being pulled over?
That was my first time getting pulled over.
Yeah. I said, I don't know. I said, but I ain't telling your dad. So we get done. He comes back up to the car, and he says, well, he was right. You shouldn't have been speeding where you were speeding, but I'm going to let you go because of who you're with.
Wow.
And I said, no. I said, write in the damn ticket. I said, he was dumb. No. And Blake's just sitting there. He's like, shut up. Go write him a ticket. I said, teach the kid a lesson. I said, he can't listen. And he's just sitting there just pretty scared. I mean, he's about ready to jump out of the car. And I think he's learned his lesson. He said, I'll let you guys go. And he says,
let's preface this with the only Jerry is on a first name basis with most county sheriffs and troopers in the state of Iowa.
Well, yeah.
Only because Jerry has a ticket list that if you rolled it out is taller than me.
Hey, back in the day there was that. But now knock on wood, it's been a long time.
I don't believe that for a minute. Jerry has is your tickets, I mean, it's incredible, Erik. He's got a litany of speeding tickets.
You never lost your license that chain?
Back in the day when it was hustling to get places, but now I take my time and 10 over is just about perfect.
10 over is slow.
Yeah, 10 over was slow back in the day. We took this. Oh, we talked about this old boy Crazy Martin, and I tell the story. I've told the story at the Dome. I've told the story anytime Blake's with me.
This is when we were on Wednesdays. We'd get off at the Ford dealer at 5 o'clock, and Jerry had to. He was asking about Buena Vista, and I said Beaver, and he looked at me. I said Buena Vista Raceway, BVR, and it was if you're going the speed limit from Boone over 2 hours.
Yeah, it's just about it's a little over 2 hours.
So keep in mind we're off at
5:30 p.m.
Yeah, we're off at
5 p.m.
and they start racing at 7.
Okay, so 2 hours
driving the speed limit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I always told everybody, how long does it take you to get here? It takes 1 hour and 28 minutes to get here. It takes 2 hours and 15 to get home. And they're like, what? I said 1:28 to get here, 2:15 to get home. And the one person knew. He goes, why, Crazy Martin drive home? I said, yep.
So
one night one night we're driving along, and I mean, I got this. I mean, I still wish I had this car. It was a great little car. It's old
Tornado.
the old Tornado is what we call it. It's an old Tornado Trofeo. Back in the day, this thing was the cat's meow of the car. It had 387,000 miles on it when I finally got rid of it.
And a great back seat for sleeping.
And yeah, so Blake would sleep on the way up.
Okay.
So one night we're cruising up there, and I look in the rear view. I'm trying to have a conversation with him, and Martin won't shut up. And I look back, and he's sleeping. And I just cranked the wheel to the right, bounced his head off the side window, and he's like, oh, what happened? Like, wake up! I'm trying to talk to you. We keep cruising along, and little crazy Martin looks over. He goes, huh? Are we going 100 miles an hour? I've never gone 100 miles an hour before in my life. And I said, Martin, we've been going 100 miles an hour for the last 20 minutes. What? What? No way. No way. And I mean, I had about 7 different routes to get to Alta. And in all the years I went, I think I only got stopped on Wednesdays one time.
Wow.
But
But he'd call every county sheriff.
I knew everybody on the way up.
Oh, okay.
So I would have it in. A buddy of mine was in, this was just as the time, I'm not going to give counties or anybody away. But it was the time where GPS was just kind of coming in and you could see where everybody was logged in at.
Mm-hmm.
Which way you going? This way. You're good. There's no troopers out. Shift change in about 25 or 30 minutes. You'll be fine.
Let her eat.
And it was a phone call when I got ready to leave, and halfway through, and you had your buddies, and you needed them. And
that's God's honest truth.
Mm-hmm. And then we just had Crazy Martin to drive home. I'd sleep. And it was 2 hours and 15 minutes.
And Crazy Martin, the
Who
speed
is Crazy
limit,
Martin?
that was the guy I just showed you the
Okay.
picture of. Big race fan. If you're a race fan in Central Iowa, you may not know Crazy Martin, but if you see a picture of him, you recognize him because he is everywhere. The man goes to 120 races a year at least. But Crazy Martin, the speed limit's 55. He's not going 54. He's not going 56.
All right.
Yeah.
Right on the nose. Tire drive back.
And I got the pleasure of going and doing a lot of racing when I was, summers, in the summer, because Martin, him and his family farmed. Mm-hmm. Small little family operation, nothing big, nothing huge. They just had your local livestock, your normal livestock and this and that. Well, for about two weeks in the summer, it come time to either walk beans or bale hay or shell corn. And I'd go spend a couple weeks Crazy Martin. And I think in 2 weeks time, there was maybe one night we didn't go to a race. So those summers I went to a ton of races, and it was fun. It was neat, and always give him a hard time, but he's goofy old cat, but man, I got to spend a lot of time going racing, and it was fun. So those are things, those stories you get to tell and we can all laugh about, but
yeah,
when the guys like the Crazy Martins are gone, I mean, they're gems. They're people that have they do nothing but eat, breathe, and live this sport. And they're the reasons the three of us get, and anybody else listening to this that are in our sport, we get to do it because those people still exist, but they're starting to become few and far between.
So I can tell you, Erik, so Martin's everywhere in the Midwest, and concerts. He's a big concert going with his wife, Cynthia, but my mom and dad lived on the north side of Minneapolis for 7 years, I want to say. So one of the years they went to the drag races up in maybe Plymouth, Minnesota, or not Plymouth, but NHRA race at like an hour north of Minneapolis.
Okay.
I'm blank.
Brainerd.
Yep, there we go.
Brainerd. Okay.
Yep, Brainerd.
I know Brainerd.
So, I mean, obviously mom and dad know Crazy Martin because he's just an icon in Central Iowa. They're walking through the pit area. This is their first NHRA race. They never go. And I talked him into going to see my buddy J.R. Todd race as he's driving Top Fuel. And they're walking through, and my dad hears a guy. Sounds like Martin. Turns around. Well, I'll be damned. There's Crazy Martin walking around the pit area at the NHRA race, and he'd been at Marshalltown the night before and Brainerd, Minnesota for NHRA the next day.
Not a short drive.
No, that's just Martin in a nutshell. You don't know where he's going to show up and when he's going to show up. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he rolled into Skagit at some point.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could walk up to John Force, Dale Jr., Kyle Larson. Hey, Crazy Martin's here tonight, and they're going to know who you're talking. They're not
really
who, and you point, and they're going to know who he is. I mean,
Larson. Kyle knows him. I know that because I pointed him out to Kyle at one point, and he's unforgettable. That's for sure.
Yeah, and he had at one point in time the largest autographed 1/24th die-cast
incredible
a collection. I don't know.
Really?
I know he's got rid of some of it.
It's a museum.
That's sick.
Yeah. He collected all that stuff back in the day, and his wife collected the Beanie Babies. And it was,
what a collection.
The house was a shrine to that. And, it was kind of a running joke. It's like, I bet you, we was out at, he used to have a race party at his house.
The holiday party.
The whole Crazy Martin race party. And, Blake goes, do you think if, because Blake went out with us one time, he goes, do you think if we took something? I go, oh, he'll know. He will know exactly if it's on.
Like, we take something just for like a week, because we'd see Martin all the time. We took one die cast for a week. Martin, yep, that one's gone. It is incredible, Erik. Hundreds.
All sprint cars, NASCAR, different.
Everything.
Okay.
Sprint cars, NASCAR. Most of them are cup cars. But you'd see him at Knoxville, and he's toting around his bag. Every year when I see him back home at Nationals, there's Martin. He's toting around his bag getting die-cast signed.
That's cool.
Yeah, but I mean, it's just, it's just one of those deals. There's those fans out there, and we need those fans.
We do.
I mean, we need every race fan that we can have right now. I don't care if it's your fair weather fan that just, I mean, I'm going to be honest. We need less of the fair weather fan, and we need more of the Crazy Martins. Back in the day, you didn't care how cold it was. You didn't care how hot it was. You didn't care. I mean, the only time you missed a race is if your kid was getting married. You didn't go to anybody else's wedding. You didn't go to a funeral. If there was a race, you went racing. And, now there's so many things to do, and you sit at home and watch it on TV. It's, we got to figure out how to make it exciting that the fan wants to come pay $15 and sit in the grandstands and watch it again.
So Crazy Martin was everywhere. I mean, he took Jerry a lot of places. You'd think that as much as Crazy Martin's done for a guy like Jerry, that Jerry would comp him free tickets, season tickets to Marshalltown, right? But
no, because he sits at home and watches it.
Oh, he comes over to Marshalltown occasionally.
He does. I mean, it's that's I mean, I've told him a couple times, just go on in, Crazy Martin. Now. So
Yep.
I mean,
that's Martin.
He knows he's going to pay to watch it.
He wants to pay.
Yeah,
can respect someone like that too, though.
Yeah, because I mean, without the weekly race program right now, without every dollar, it's tough. It is a tough business right now.
What's the off season look like for you, Jerry? I know that you're making a lot of changes inside the concession stand, but kind of walk me through what it's like to wind down for you guys post harvest hustle to winterize the facility, what that looks like.
Oh, I mean, like they were in and turned all the water off. I mean, it's draining all the water trucks. It's this weekend I'll go up and I'll pull all the batteries out of everything, and that's the one thing a guy doesn't pull the batteries out. Well, yeah, you pull the batteries out and you bring them in at least out of the element, and put a trickle charger on them, and you keep charging them all winter long. So then you go out in the spring, put the batteries in, stuff starts, and making sure that all the equipment's winterized. And, I get pretty lucky. I got a couple guys, Zach Olson and Travis Hatch. They, when they're in town, they travel quite a bit. They got a mobile truck service, and they're all over the Midwest working on trucks. And when they're there, hey, what do you need? How can we come help? And so I know they're going to be around this weekend, and we're going to do some work. We're going to get everything ready for the winter. I got some clay found. I'm just trying to get trucks lined up before we get that hard frost. And we can't really work the racetrack anymore. But, it's just getting things ready, I mean, just something as simple as making sure all the trash cans are picked up out of the pit area and the grandstands and put in a place that when we do get, blizzard type conditions in the winter, those 40, 50 mile an hour winds, then it's not blowing that stuff all over the fairgrounds or picks them up and blows them into the convenience store right next door, or blows it over into somebody's yard, just some of that stuff that, you gotta make sure that the place is ready for winter. And it takes longer to get the place closed than it does to get it open.
Yeah.
What do you got going in the concession stand? I know that you're getting electrical advice from our good buddy Jason Sherm.
Oh yeah, everybody should get electrical advice. He told me. He told me first thing. He says, get two 5-gallon buckets of water, put a foot in each one, and then
that I can envision Sherm telling you that. I have no problem believing that.
So I followed his directions until somebody walked in.
I have no problem believing that.
I was having one of those days. Now, if I touch this red wire and this white wire and I'm in the water, this is going to
What's going to happen?
So, but no, it just, there again, it's nothing that somebody sees, but, it's, you got to get the hood cleaned, for your fryer. You got to get that done. So then when they're in doing that, we did do a little remodel project last year in the concession stand where when they built the new restrooms, we were able to convert the old restrooms to more concessions and storage. So we were able to, do this. And the old Dale that helps me out, he was like, hey, I got an idea. And I go, okay. He says, what if we need to get, I'll do it. I said, what's this going to cost me? And he says, what's it cost you all summer? And I said, nothing. Yep. And he says, you know me, I just love to tinker with things and make sure the place is up, make sure the place is working and looks good.
Well,
so we went in and moved cleaned the concession stand out, did everything, got her all scrubbed up. And then, let's start painting. Let's convert everything from these halogen lights to LED. Let's this and let's that, and then, you're always looking ways to speed your processes up. And it was like something as simple, and I didn't realize it until I was standing there. Something as simple as when I'm putting the fryers back in and my steam tables and everything, something as simple as the placement of the deep freezes to speed up a process and make somebody's job easier. So instead, what had been before is the person running the fryers had to come out, go around the steam table, go around the other steam table, and go to the deep freeze, and then make that walk back around. So as I'm standing there looking at it, I'm like, what if we moved them deep freezes right here? So all he has to do is take 5 steps straight forward and 5 steps straight back. Makes his or her job easier. So just some of those things, just working on streamlining, not that we don't already have a well-organized and streamlined concession area, but just things that can make that, keeping the product out there, so where you're not getting behind. So when you do have the people coming, we use the grab and go system. So you walk up, you grab what you want, you pay at the end. And that's kind of one of the best. I go to so many racetracks, and the first thing I look at is concessions. What are these guys doing that I can be better at?
That's where you make a lot of money.
Yeah, and 9 times out of 10, you start looking at it, and you're like, "Ooh, I could actually help them." And you just, I think that we all got to help each other too. So if I see something that could tweak another person's facility that might make it better for them, I'll say, hey, I was just observing, and I was wondering, why do you do it this way? Well, that's the way we've always done it. Well, hey, if I could save you 10 minutes, oh hell yeah, it saved me 10 minutes. I'll take it all day long. I mean, it was no different than when it comes to track prep. Blake had I just lost the cat's name in the racetrack out in California, but what I'm talking about.
Oh,
Blake.
Colby Copeland.
Thank you. Yes.
Chico,
Yeah.
Silver Dollar.
Chico. Yeah. they've been having some issues out there with some, just they were, not struggling, but it was dusty and it was this and it was that, and I use a water agent, to help with dust and help with keeping the racetrack better and this and that. And Blake and I talked about it. I know they started using it at Skagit, and then Cody was like, "Hey, and Blake was like, "Hey, this is the guy. This is the guy that told us what to do." And that guy was me, because I got, I had seen other people using it and it works. And so, I mean, here's, racetracks in the Northwest and on the West Coast, guy in the Midwest, we're all working for, at the end of the day, for a better product for the whole sport itself, not just ourselves. And I think that's what we've all got to start doing too, is it's not just about me, it's about us. And that's kind of like the way I like to lead the crew at Marshalltown. It's not about you. It's not about me. It's about us.
Yeah.
What we do as us is how those people perceive our product. And we got to keep those people, which is our customers, racers and fans, happy.
I want to shift gears real quick before we start to kind of head down towards the end. But to Erik, Jerry announces at Boone Speedway, IMCA Super Nationals. I mean, shoot, you were over 1,000 cars this year, Jerry, right in that neck of the woods?
Like 1167 or something. Crazy.
Over the course of a couple of weeks. And that event has exploded. I mean, I think I called 4 or 5 Super Nationals when I was still announcing at Boone and still back in the Midwest, and that it's just continued to grow from there. I mean, back then it was 700-800 cars, and it was like, wow, this is big. But what's that like? You have to completely shift gears from Friday night promoting to Saturday night promoting, but in a different way as the announcer.
Yeah, it's there's sometimes I have to tell myself, hey, don't forget this isn't your racetrack. Because you do. I mean, a guy can overstep a little bit, but I also like to be that team player. If somebody, this or that's going on, but it's I think I've announced. I think 93 was when I first started. Wow. That was when I first started announcing, and I love announcing car races. I mean, I just love the shit out of it. It is so much fun. It's that week of Super Nationals. It's a job, but yet it's a fun job, and I get to spend, it wouldn't be what it is. And Blake can, give some credit to this, because he's worked with different announcers, and you find those people that you work with that you just don't have to worry about anything. And it happens. And that's with Ryan Clark and myself, it's a chemistry, it works. We don't have to work at it is what I'm getting. It just happens. And we both have told each other, I couldn't, he said, I couldn't announce this event without you. And he says, I won't announce it without you. And I said, I'm the same way. I said, so until we die, we keep announcing this damn thing.
There you go.
Because I'm not going anywhere anytime soon. He said, well, I'm not either. But you just get that bond and that chemistry. And then I always look back at, Blake and I grew up in the time of Toby and Denny, and that was before streaming and before any of that stuff. And it was a different style. It was a different thing. I think we all cultivated our own culture from what those two started doing back in the 90s and the 2000s. And we've grown on it, with the introduction of using music and more, just more dumb things, because I've always said, and I can't remember, Ken Squire told Toby years ago, and Toby passed it on to me, and it's the one thing that I always live off of, and I try to tell these announcers now what that was, because you hear it so many times, whether it's whether you go somewhere or whatever, Ken Squire said, if you have to tell people who you are, you're not good at what you do. But if you pick that microphone up and say good evening and welcome, and they're like, oh my goodness, he's here.
Toby hammered that into me.
Yeah, you never. And, I've been to a and I get to go in, and I've been a series announcer on some stuff. And I've been that guy that gets called to come in and be the guest or the co-announcer or whatever you want to call it.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember there was one instance, I told the guy, and I knew he was going to do it. I said, I do not want any big introduction. I don't need it. I don't want it. Please don't do it.
Okay.
Anthem gets over. Oh, man, we're so great to have with us tonight. Blah, blah. I'm like, I just told you to not do that. Because at the end of the day, people don't pay $15 to listen to the damn announcer.
Yeah.
Now, will a good announcer get somebody to pay $15 to come to your racetrack? You damn right. If you as an announcer can entertain the people, that's your job.
Entertain and inform.
Yep. You're 80% entertain, 20% inform.
Mm-hmm.
And I tell everybody today when they want to be an announcer, there's 3 things you need to make sure you get every time. Name, number, hometown.
Yep.
Those are the 3 most important things you need to do as an announcer. The rest of it is all just ad lib and this. Because anybody can pick up a microphone and talk about what they're seeing. We don't get paid as announcers to talk about what we're seeing. When you really become a good announcer is when you can fill a 45-minute rain delay.
Yeah.
When you can when you know that when somebody gets upside down hard and you're like, red flag, fire and safety's on the way, to turn the mic off and shut up.
Yep.
And you don't say anything. And I learned that from Blake in the sprint car world, because in the stock car world, it was, you could BS. Well, as things have progressed, and I mean, in modifieds and stock cars and late models, these crashes get more horrific and more violent and harder.
Mm-hmm.
That they're getting to be like what a sprint car wreck is. So you don't know if that guy or that gal's okay.
Mm-hmm.
So you give the respect and just turn the mic off and not say anything until you get word. And then now the entertainment part comes back. The informing. And, inform them, hey, man, what a nasty ride, but fire and safety just radioing up, driver of the whatever car, he's talking to them, he's alert, they're going to take their time with him, but we're going to be under a red for a little bit. So while we're doing that, don't forget the concession stand, and you're selling everything about that, and then you're talking about what's happening next week or what's coming up in 3 races. And I think so many guys forget that's when that makes a good announcer right there, is when you can all that time and, for lack of better terms, know your role and shut your mouth.
I think Erik can attest to that, because I've spent a lot of time working with Erik on that, of just, you need you to, sell the facility, but don't push it too, walk that line of being the salesman, but not super hard, but also informing, entertaining, educating. It's a fine line, but yeah, you're right. We've seen, growing up, it was rare to see a car get upside down, I feel like. But a couple times a year at Boone or Marshalltown, now it's not that uncommon.
Ooh, I mean, and some of these wrecks are just, and that's like I've worked with people that they just, that car stops flipping and they just keep talking. And I mean, I'll just be like, hey, this is when you let this breathe, because everybody right now is going, and you can hear a pin drop. And that's, you need that, because, you can say something off cuff and that guy's wife or that kid's mom or grandparents or a family member or girlfriend or fiance sitting in the grandstands, and all they're focused on is my guy okay? He's a crowd favorite, and everybody's, take, for example, Dale Earnhardt. the world went silent. The racing world went silent.
Mm-hmm.
He hit that Daytona, and you hear Darrell Waltrip go, I hope my buddy's okay. And then they stopped talking. Little did we know that 20 minutes later, he's dead.
Yeah.
I mean, the only one that knew he was dead at the beginning was Ken Schrader. And, you know, that's the one thing you never ask Ken Schrader about. Never. I don't care how big of a friend or a fan you're, never ask him about that. I've been told that. Don't ever ask him about that day. Because they were great friends.
Yeah.
And, you know, and we as the world, you know, that was when NASCAR was great. That's when it had heroes and villains. And you know, as an announcer, you can't make heroes and villains anymore, because if you make somebody a villain who doesn't want to be a villain, they're in your grill screaming, you're pissed off about it.
Yeah.
You lost a partner or something over that.
Yeah, you know, I mean, so there is that fine line right now of everybody's soft. I'm not going to lie about it. I mean, 50 years old. I'm at that point where I get my AARP card and I talk like an old man.
You are getting old.
Yeah, the world's soft. I mean, I remember as a kid, there were heroes and villains.
Yep.
You had, you know, everybody knows the name Kelly Shryock from the modified, now the stock car national champion this year at IMCA. But his dad, Bob Shryock, was a stud. That dude was a bad mofo, and I loved watching Bob Shryock race. And Denny Hovengay. They lived, you know, they lived up in Northwest Iowa, but you could go, and at that time it was Friday night, you would go to Fairmont, and everybody was a Bob Shryock fan. And the announcer laid right into it. I mean, Denny Hovengay was the heel. I mean, he was, you know, I mean, watch professional wrestling back in the day. Heroes and heels. He was the heel. And Denny Hovengay, the nicest guy in the world. If Bob Shryock blew up an engine, he'd give him an engine. Vice versa. They were friends. They were best of buddies. But on the racetrack, everybody thought they hated each other because the announcer sold it. The people believed it. You told them what you wanted them to hear. And you'd go Saturday to Webster City. They'd race at Webster City together. And it was kind of a 50-50 split there. You either liked Bob Shryock or you didn't care, or you liked Denny Hovengay and you didn't care. But then you went Sunday to Alta, where Denny Hovengay was from, and they hated Bob Shryock because, once again, the announcer did his job. He created that environment. And right now in today's world, we can't do that because it offends somebody. And I think, you know, you can say one off the mark cuff thing about somebody and it'll blow the internet up.
Mm-hmm.
You can call the situation exactly to a T how it happened. And on Facebook, you're wrong because that's this is the way I saw it.
Yeah.
And I can't believe you'd say that. Why would you think that? So you need to apologize to them. Apologize for doing my job? I don't think so. So that's where, you know, some of that right now gets to be a little tough. The heroes and villains, and make, you know, a situation that you know is wrong and talking about it, you got to watch what you do. And it's the days of streaming and the days of social media have made that a little harder. But going back to the streaming thing, if it wasn't for streaming, nobody'd know who I am.
Yeah, Marshalltown would be just what it was growing up. An awesome place for Central Iowa, but Marshalltown's blown up because of streaming. Yeah,
nobody would know who Blake Anderson was or is. Nobody would know Jerry Vansickel. Nobody would know because unless you go to the races, you didn't know those people.
Yeah.
But with the streaming, I mean, people all over the world know who we are. They know the racer. They know the racetrack. And that's one of the biggest, you know, pros to the streaming deal is it's opened people up to know that, you know, Marshalltown, you know, it's my bucket list track. That's why I want to go. That's a bucket list event. I want to go. I want to go to, man, that race at Skagit I watched last week. I want to go out there so bad. You know, I mean, streaming's helped us in that, but it's also hurt us to where, you can, you can say one little thing and not mean what is taken, but because I'm sitting in my living room or my basement or my garage and I can hear you, I hear every word you say, and I can go back and watch it. And I can watch it times. Yeah. To where back in the day when there wasn't streaming, you could slip and you didn't, unless somebody heard it, you never heard it.
Yeah.
It's because it was on the PA. So it's but I do. I mean, I just enjoy car racing so much. I don't care what it is. I've worked everything from, IndyCar stuff, on the towing and recovery side years ago, some NASCAR stuff on the professional stuff, doing that, to, about everything you can do, local super late models and sprint cars, and, worked Western World with the USAC and Yuma one year, which on the national deal, and got to travel. I mean, I've got to see a lot of neat things. I've got to meet a lot of great people. I've got a lot of great memories that I'll take with me forever. And I've made, got a chance to help people make memories with being that announcer, or being that guy at the racetrack, or being the guy that sacrifices 100 hours a week of not being home. Hey, we got this thing tonight. I'm trying to get out of here. I'm trying to get home. And you don't get home. And that's what a lot of people forget. And it becomes tough for us, is we got a home life too. I mean, we all have a home life. We all have, whether it's coming home and seeing your dog, or whether it's coming home and seeing your wife or your kids. Everybody's so glad that you're away that you're doing all what you do, but then they don't, when you sit somewhere and you're like, God, I just wish I would. Yeah. And those are tough. It's tough. It's tough. And I think that's kind of one of the reasons I've never went national, did a national tour, was because I just never was right place, right time. And I like to be at home. I like to just come home once in a while. I like to come home and get my ass chewed by a old lady once in a while.
Well deserved.
You ever just gonna come home and not go to that racetrack? Oh yeah.
Poor Jackie.
Yeah, I know. But she's been too. So I mean, we're both pretty busy. But there are. I mean, you think about it. I mean, when Blake, you were on the road. You were on the road all those years. I mean, it was, you miss stuff at home.
Yeah.
You miss those things. And I really think that's where I was talking about earlier, where people have changed, is the newer generation that are in our sport isn't as committed to it as, say, like I was when I was in my 20s.
Yeah.
Because if I could turn back time and Blake, you and I have talked about it, if I could have went out and been traveling nationally in my my early to mid 20s with the Outlaws or USAC or, whatever. Oh, I'd have jumped on it in a heartbeat. Goodbye. Don't care what it pays. I'm going.
Go.
I just, it came, my opportunity came 30 years too late, because I could be on the road.
Yeah.
I just don't, I want to take care of local racing. I want to take care of weekly racing.
I've got one question to follow up with that and you talk about people wanting to be home, and the race fan nowadays, they don't want to always be out till 12, 1, 2 in the morning. You still run, though, impressively 6 classes a night. How do you keep your program so efficient and moving when you're running 6 classes and trying to respect that, race fans want to be home a little bit,
I think, excuse me, some of it is, here in the central part of the country, or the Midwest, or, specifically Boone and Marshalltown, in tracks in central Iowa, it has been just, for lack of better terms, beat into our heads. One's off, one's on, one's off, one's on off. Don't slow down. What time are 5 o'clock hot laps? 4:59. They're not at 5 o'clock. They're at 4:59. What time do the races start? We better be when the clock hits 7:30, we better have cars on the racetrack. Mm-hmm. And I think some of that is self-discipline. I think a lot of it's self-discipline. And just making sure, that you've got 3 hours, you've got the attention span of people for 3 hours on a weekly show. Now, something where you've got, 284 cars on a Saturday night, the average person understands that it's going to probably be a 7 or 8 hour show.
Yeah.
But I think you have to keep your product going. You've got to keep those people entertained. I mean, when you go to a movie, you're always focused on what's happening. There's something happening. You look at you look at what Major League Baseball's done with their pitch time and their pitch count, and they've shortened that time up because the games were getting too long.
Yeah.
And they were losing revenue because the people were like, I'm not going to sit out there for 6 hours to watch 9 innings of baseball. Same with the NFL. They all understand that we've got about a 3 to 4 hour window, and it's the same no matter, you go to a concert. Mm-hmm. You walk in, the opening act starts playing at 6:30 and you're out of there at 11:30. You've seen the opening act, you've seen the headliner, watch the encores, and you're done. And there was something happening all the time. Now, you go to a racetrack that takes an intermission, and I just despise intermissions. Just despise them. Because here's what happens on an intermission. Oh, we're going to take a 10-minute intermission here, folks, and stop on down and this and that. 10-minute intermission turns into 25.
Yeah.
Because at that 10-minute intermission, now the racer's starting to come up. Oh, yeah, better get staging area. It's been 10 minutes. No, the intermission was 10 minutes. That meant at 10 minutes, we're going to the racetrack with that next race. That was one of the things I was down helping race direct at Springfield this weekend. And they came on, we had a 10-minute intermission. And I said, all right. I said, it's 8:52. I said, at 9:02, I said, we better have a race car on the racetrack. You guys need to be back in your spots. And, and by this time, the guy in the pits had called for the cars to staging because, it's going to take them 10 minutes to get there.
Yeah.
And we had a 9-minute intermission. Staging guy said, I got them all. I said, let's go. And it was a 9-minute intermission. And if you can keep that 10-minute intermission to 10 minutes or less, and your staff can do it, and your racers can do it, great. Take it. I get it. But if you can't, then don't ever, just keep going, because then there's already other holes in you. There's already other holes in your show that you need to work on.
Jerry, we'll wrap things up here, but what's the off season looking like for you? Is Erik will get a kick out of this because he's a big hockey fan, but Jerry's girlfriend Jackie, is she still one of the arena hosts for the Iowa Wild this winter?
Yeah, I'm on the backup of the backup list of that. So.
He's done that a couple times, Erik.
All right.
I do a couple games a year, or go up in PA, announce some hockey, but. Yeah, the Dome's right around the corner. I'll be there this year. Just kind of a little different capacity. I'm going as a fan this year. Just going to spend some time enjoying it. And then we got a 3-day IMCA show at Corpus Christi the week after. So this will be the longest I've worked in December. No, well, because the Dome sometimes fell into that second week of December. Mm-hmm. Take about a month off, then we'll go to Arizona for a couple weeks. I knew Wade was kind of working on something for me in Australia, but that thing kind of hasn't transpired yet. So we'll do that. I think I'm gonna go back to work for a little while. I found a place that, and this is no kidding. I just walked in and I said, hey, this is kind of what I'd like to do. Here's my schedule. What do you think? And they're like, yeah, we could make that work. So I think I'm going to just, Blake, me, I always got to be doing something.
Yeah, you're on the go all the time.
So what is it? I don't know when this thing airs.
It'll air tomorrow.
Air tomorrow. So that's
the 20th.
the 20th. The 25th, I'll start. I got a single varsity girls basketball game to officiate.
Does it say you handing out technicals this winter?
Nah, not if I don't have to. I mean, the older I get, the more I hate it.
He's getting soft, Erik.
Let him play.
Back in the day, I'd ride with games to him and just beg him, just tee somebody up for me.
I go, it's got to be pretty good. And then all of a sudden, it's like, dude, he goes, you told me you wanted me to tee somebody up, so I did. So I'll do that, and I do. I just kind of stay busy, and I teach driver's ed.
Okay.
Sit in the passenger seat.
Yeah.
If you've ever heard me on the receiver, I teach the driver's ed kids the same way. It's sometimes it's not an enjoyable conversation, but do some racing. Then of course we'll get Clash on the Coast there, and then before we know it, I mean, really in racing, there's not an off season anymore. There's really no off season. So, and then it's always the stuff with Marshalltown. Get it buttoned up, start hitting that advertising. I've got a goal this year of things that I'd like to do and hit. Then you're, constantly just getting ready for 2026. I mean, our schedule, for those of you who are looking, it will drop when you're carving your turkey at noon on Thanksgiving Day. Who's ever carving the turkey, everybody else, grab your phone, go to MarshalltownSpeedway.com or to Marshalltown or to our Facebook. Schedule will drop at noon on Thanksgiving Day. I always like to pick some weird time or a day. Everybody's like, we're just going to drop our schedule today. No, have it at a time where everybody's thinking about it. Hey, what time is it? Well, it's noon. Oh, Marshalltown Speedway's dropping.
So that's 10 o'clock our time, Erik.
10 o'clock our time.
Yeah, 10 o'clock.
Yeah, 10 Central.
We're going to drop it.
All right, so I'll be looking at 10, and if it's not there, I'll tell Blake to text you.
Yeah, so when you're watching the Macy's Day Thanksgiving Parade, it will hit.
Okay.
So the off season's just kind of and it'll snow here a little bit, and probably try to take try to get to a Packers game or something yet. Get up to Wisconsin. We usually try to go up there for a weekend and spend some time with some friends. Yeah. There's like I said, there's not that off season anymore. There's always something going on, but I wouldn't do anything different. I wouldn't do anything else. I don't know that there's anything else out there that's more enjoyable. I enjoy what I do, and it's fun. It's fun. It's just it brings pleasure in a strange, methodical, unorthodox kind of way.
Fair enough. I like it. Hey, go Vikes, by the way.
Yes, 2 thumbs up for that.
Yes, we like that. But we appreciate it, Jerry. Thanks for hopping on with us and kind of talking us through, what goes on at Marshalltown, how you work at Boone, and everything in between. We appreciate you taking some time out of your relaxing afternoon in the basement.
Yeah, well, I think somebody's home. The dogs just went running upstairs.
There you go.
Yeah, perfect timing.
Tell Jackie hello.
Yeah, the old sled dog team took off upstairs.
Yeah, I'll have to show you some pictures of the dogs, Erik.
Please.
Exactly. Hope I didn't bore you guys too much.
No, this is great, Jerry. Thank you.
Hopefully, we got some Blake stories out there that everybody can.
We got a couple.
Hey, we need the Blake stories out there.
Yeah, those are the good ones. We'll see you in a couple weeks, J Van.
All right, we'll see you. Yeah, we will. We'll see you. We'll see you in St. Louis.
All righty.
All right, Jerry. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. Take care.
You're welcome. Happy holidays, everybody.
Yep. See you.
A good chat with Jerry Vansickel there, a guy that I've known, as I said, a long time, and Jerry's one of the good guys in racing. That, boy, I've known Jerry for most of my life, I'd say. So he's done a lot, and it was fun to chat with him on how things go at Marshalltown. Hearing about the off-season projects that maybe fans won't quite notice, and the concession stand that we've got a lot that goes on here at Skagit that you do. A big project in the off-season that maybe the fans won't notice too much that really enhances their experience and they don't even realize it.
Yeah. It's about making the little things better, because the little things just make that small difference, and they add up to make a major difference. And that's what we try to do at Skagit Speedway. That's what Jerry tries to do at Marshalltown. That's what really every race promoter, I feel like, tries to do at the racetrack, is make the fan experience better. How can you elevate your experience for your fans, but for your race teams too? And we're working on that here at Skagit Speedway.
Yeah, that's a conscious effort for us here at Skagit, as we spent time last week over in Spokane with Kevin at Routine Management and going over things for this year and really how can we get next year better, make it bigger and better for you race fans and for the team. So we've got a lot in store, and Jerry talked about his schedule will come out Thanksgiving Day. That's kind of what he does. Check out MarshalltownSpeedway.com and somewhat active on Twitter. Jerry doesn't do Twitter too much, so I try to
pretty active Facebook.
I try to help on Twitter when I can, but as we get going, it gets harder and harder for me to do that. But Facebook, very active on Facebook, so make sure to check them out on Facebook, what they've got going, and check out some of those highlights. And you watch some of the racing on Flow Racing.
I enjoyed it.
Really good races through the
I
years.
I was telling Dad this morning, like, we got to go back, and Blake said to watch the 2023 Flow Night in America at Marshalltown.
Yes,
so
Flow Racing Night in America.
That's next on the bucket list to watch of the America's bucket list racetrack. I like that. That.
It was always, before that, it was what Friday nights are made for, and then that kind of changed. But there's been a lot of additions at Marshalltown through the years. They've really made it a nice facility. If you're a sprint car fan listening to this, if you get a chance to go to Knoxville Raceway to check out the sprint car capital of the world, Highway 14 runs off of turns 1 and 2 in Knoxville. That's the main road right there. Hop on Highway 14 and go 1 hour north, and Marshalltown is right off of Highway 14. Highway 14 runs right through the dead heartbeat of Marshalltown, and the racetrack maybe about a mile off of that. But it's well worth the trip up. They run Fridays. Knoxville runs Saturdays. Make yourself a good little trip of it. But that's a great place, and you can stop at my hometown right the way. Newton's right between the two. 25 minutes to Knoxville, 25 minutes to Marshalltown.
I was going to ask Jerry, and I just didn't. Have they ever ran a sprint car at Marshalltown?
Back in the day, but
okay.
It's tough now. Insurance makes it a little bit tough, I'd say. They've got a concrete retaining wall on the front stretch, and off of turn 4, it's pretty high as it kind of comes down. So
that's what he was saying, I guess, when it said the car was 4 feet up, right?
Yeah,
okay.
There's some things there that they'd put on a hell of a show. I can tell you that much, but I would be holding my breath the entire time, hoping that just get to lap 30, because it'd be a 30-lap race. Just get to 30, get to 30. But it would be, I think, honestly, the midgets probably would put a better show on at Marshalltown than sprint cars, just the way it's set up. I
could see that.
I remember I was showing a picture there. I want to say it would have been 2012 because Kyle was driving in the K&N series, what's now ARCA, as they've kind of adopted the K&N Pro Series. And Kyle Larson was running it. Iowa Speedway, my hometown, and he flew in, and he'd come race Knoxville a lot and come into Central Iowa, and I was living in Des Moines interning at the NBC affiliate there, and I'd pick Kyle up at the airport, and we'd go wherever Friday and to Knoxville Saturday when I was announcing at Knoxville, and he'd race. A couple Fridays, took him up to Marshalltown Speedway. And
did he ever race up there?
He did not race, but we just talked about how, and I always said, sprint cars would be great here, and he said midgets would be better, and it's always kind of stuck out to me that he thought midgets would put on a good show there, and they would, but no, I think back in the day they did, before I was born. So, but the super late models always put on a hell of a show there, and they really disappeared for the better part of 20, 25 years. But Toby Cruz that Jerry is inherited the lease from, brought him back a couple of times, and Jerry's kind of taken that to a whole different level, bringing in the national stars with Flow Racing Night in America. But Toby did a phenomenal job really ushering Marshalltown Speedway into the era that we've known it to be the last 15, 20 years, and Jerry has continued to take that torch and do a phenomenal job with it. But yeah, check them out. They put on a great show, and I watch them. If I'm not at Deming, if Deming rains out or I can watch, I'm usually watching Marshalltown on Flow Racing every night on my phone. So check them out on Flow Racing. But yeah, their schedule will come out then. Our schedule will probably drop sometime around there too. We don't have a date ironed in exactly yet, but I would imagine between Thanksgiving and Christmas usually seems to be when we drop our schedule. But we've got a couple of different things dropping on the schedule this year that'll be fun.
Anything you can tease or hint at?
Not really.
All
I mean, just kind of. I mean, it's kind of similar,
yeah.
but just a couple minor changes that I think will enhance the viewing experience for our fans, and some may not even notice it. So that's kind of like goes back to what we were just talking about. Is you do little things that sometimes they don't always notice, but we worked hard on the background to make it happen. So, going to be fun. It's going to be a big 2026 shoot. We're already to the middle of November, so
it's Thanksgiving next weekend.
Thanksgiving next week, so we'll have we'll probably do an early week episode next week, being Thanksgiving's Thursday.
Yeah, true. So I didn't think
we'll work on that, but
we'll figure that out.
Then I head to the Dome the following week for St. Louis for Gateway Dirt Nationals, and then come back and it's Gonna blink and it's Christmas.
So if you a week or a couple weeks, then you'll go to Tulsa and
then
after
I'll go
Christmas
and go home for Christmas, and I got to figure out probably go straight from home to Tulsa the way things are lining up, and I'll come back that week between Tulsa Shootout and Chili Bowl. So we'll do something there, maybe a little Chili Bowl preview.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Then it's the
Get
Chili
Caleb
Bowl,
hard
and
on.
then we get back from the Chili Bowl, and we're within 100 days of opening day at that point, and it's like you start to things really start to kick into high gear then. Hockey's rolling, college basketball's hitting high gears. We're looking towards March Madness.
How are your Hawkeyes doing?
They're 4-0 right now, so
Oh.
I'm happy. New coach, so we're looking good.
There you
It's
go.
exciting. Women's team's chugging along. So, but it's going to be I think we're going to have some news and notes really start to come our way in the next couple of weeks in sprint car racing. I've really expected some more stuff to come down the pipeline here the last week or so, and it's been kind of slow.
It has been.
It's been kind of slow. So one Ashton Torgerson going to be full time with the World of Outlaws Now Synergy Drink Sprint Car Series next year in the Bobby Allen 1A. So our Shark Racing 1A, but always kind of be Bobby's car to me. Even lost him about a month ago, but he'll be running for the Kevin Gobrecht Rookie of the Year, and I saw Johnny Gibson tweeted last night. He's thinking 3 Rookie of the Year contenders in 2026 for the
That would be
Outlaws.
really fun.
So I'm not sure what'll happen there, but that'll be fun to watch. I honestly have
who
racked
the
my
other
brain
three
who
be.
the other 2 would be, but there's some rumors of some guys flipping series
Okay.
too, so that I guess need to factor that in. But
So if you flip series, do you still qualify technically as a Rookie of the Year? Yeah, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, but High Limit dropped their schedule. Obviously, something exciting there. We're going to have them for 3 days again. Then exciting to see what guys maybe come to Dirt Cup because they're off for Dirt Cup, and then the week after Dirt Cup, they run Billings, Montana for the Race Redeem Foundation race.
Yeah, it's a lot closer, maybe
it's a
less
lot
of a
closer
drive.
than
that you
going
gotta
to
make.
Missouri.
Yep.
So maybe entice.
I think we'll
some
see
guys
some
to
more
come.
teams.
I absolutely agree there. I think we'll see some more High Limit teams come out for Dirt Cup, which will be fun. Dirt Cup, that's kind of a. I think that's the premier event for us. That's what we're known for. I would say that. But then
Our premier event that doesn't have a touring series with it.
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, we have NARC. NARC comes with.
Yeah,
but
NARC,
it's still
exactly.
a Skagit event. It's not.
I was going through some papers yesterday that Roy Blumenhagen gave me, and got some ideas for NARC with their schedule and some things they used to do up here. So we'll see. Maybe I talked to Kevin about a couple things. So maybe just some interesting caveats that it could take from my All-Star days and maybe bring to NARC to help elevate things there. But they've got an exciting schedule. They're starting to really carve that out. I know that John's been on a lot of calls, and the NARC schedule, that'll be something that we'll talk about when that drops, as we'll kind of work our way through the NARC schedule. Because obviously NARC is now in the 26 promotions family, so we'll start to hit on that a little bit more. And obviously that's a lot of the guys that come up to Skagit quite a bit that you see come up for Dirt Cup and Summer Nationals and Skagit Nationals. So those are names you Skagit fans see there June, July, August, at least once a month.
Yeah, and sometimes they've even made up their way for local shows too. I mean, it's fun
we've-
to catch guys, DJ Neto, among the other.
Joel Myers Jr. came up and ran
A lot of young talent.
the second week last year, and so you might start to see that, especially with the way things are going to unravel. I think that there's going to be some potential for teams starting to base themselves maybe out of the area and setting cars up here to run. I think that we're kind of starting to get there. You've heard drivers talk about that in the past of what our weekly show pays is pretty impressive, so maybe we figure out how to do that. So I'm always kind of got my ear to the ground on that. It's like, is it going to happen? We'll see. But yeah, the Chili Bowl entry list just debuted yesterday. We're over 100. We're 101 yesterday, and I just refreshed before we came up here. We're at 108.
Sweet.
For that. So
chilibowl.com,
chilibowl.com, you can check out the entry list there. I saw Tulsa Shootout is tracking to be the biggest Tulsa Shootout ever.
I love the shootout.
So
one of my favorites.
Full disclosure, last year I wasn't really looking forward to the shootout.
Because that was your first one, wasn't it? Yeah.
I always said I'm never going to work the shootout. That's going to be hell, going to be a slog. Then I did it, and I enjoyed it. I really did. We have a fun group.
Yeah,
our
that always
broadcast
makes
team's
it better.
Really fun. So I saw when we were on the podcast with Jerry that Flow Racing released our announcer lineup for Gateway Dirt Nationals, same as we've had the last handful of years. I know we added Chris Moore into the mix last year, but Ben Shelton and Dustin Jarrett will be on the call for the super late models. I'll be pit reporting in the infield. Chris Moore came on board last year, and he really worked out in the pits. He'll be out there. Trenton Berry, So the original 4 was Ben and DJ, Trenton, and myself, and we're all back. So doing our same thing. Trenton does a lot with like the promoters that are there, getting a chance to shine a light on what they do. And Trenton owns Dirt on Dirt that why am I blanking on what Trenton's company is? They cover USMTS and phenomenal job. I'm absolutely just blanking on it right now, and I apologize, Trenton. But nonetheless, they cover USMTS.
Is it
Race and Dirt? There we go. I don't know why I blanked on it there. I apologize. So Trenton owns Race and Dirt, and they do some sprint car stuff too. Not a ton, but a little bit of sprint car stuff. And then so the fans will enjoy this. Chet Christner going to be back on the mic for the first time in a couple of years. He's going to be calling the modifieds this year, so that'll be fun to have Chet back in the mix.
The Dome's fun. I look at that. It'll be fun.
It's a unique event. And then I think everything's status quo. We got our Chili Bowl assignments. Tyler McKim, our producer, sent us our announcing assignments already for the Chili Bowl and the shootout, so I know what shifts I'm working and when. Because we kind of rotate around.
Yeah.
But it'll be the same there. Caleb and I will be out there representing the Pacific Northwest. And that's kind of fun because that gives us an opportunity to talk a little bit about Skagit to a really, really big viewing audience and talk about the cool things that we've got going here. So that's always fun. Caleb and I loved the chance to get to talk about Skagit there too. I mean, literally hundreds of thousands of people watching the Chili Bowl. So hopefully we can continue to kind of nudge people to come out and join us at Skagit. We've started to kind of see that work a little bit. So we'll keep working that. But Caleb and I will be there. Clinton Boyles and Chris Moore. Chris works at New Egypt Speedway out in New Jersey. So that's where he is. He's one of on the management team out there. And Clinton Boyles and McKim's blood pressure goes up because Earl is back with me, and Earl and I.
So you'll run to the pits again?
Oh, yeah. Earl and I will shoot Tyler McKim's blood pressure through the moon. Earl, if you've ever heard Earl, after listening to Jerry talk there, they are long-lost brothers that have never met.
I didn't put that together. That's a good point. They are.
Carbon copies of each other. They act the same. They sound very similar. And I've seen both of them smoke cigarettes, and I've never seen either of them buy a cigarette in my entire life. So they're very much the same. So I told Earl, yeah, I know your twin. Now we got him connected on social media. I got him connected on Facebook, so they talk occasionally, and I just giggle when I see him interact because I'm like, you two are brothers that haven't even met. But Earl he's the voice at Port Royal Speedway and on their management team out there. So we've got a good group, a fun group, and that'll be here. And then a couple of weeks after that, Eric's 410 sprint car season is upon us.
Let's go. Volusia. Get that started down in Florida, everything, and then Outlaws, and then you'll get High Limit
kicks off for the first week of March.
Or not Texas, Vegas, excuse me, yep.
Oh, news and notes. USAC was really excited for. Tonight they were supposed to be at Plaza Park. That got rained out. I was excited for that. And then Friday was one I was really excited for. Midgets at Tulare, but they got rained out as well because they've been in just torrential downpours. But Merced Speedway puts on a great program down south of there. And USAC was there next Saturday. Well, because of the weather this week, Doug Lockwood and gang at Merced said we'll have USAC Friday and Saturday. So they added a date there.
Sweet.
And then Turkey Night Grand Prix not Turkey Night, but Saturday.
Yeah.
At Ventura is always a phenomenal event as well. And Kyle Larson will be running all those midget races. So if you're looking for some stuff to watch, open wheel wise, the USAC NOS Energy Drink National Midgets in California on Flow Racing next Friday and Saturday, and I think they have they go to Kern somewhere in there. USACRacing.com.
Sorry, Alex Peck was supposed to go run a non-wing car, and that would have been the same time he was at Tulare. So I couldn't remember if that was that same.
He was supposed to be down there, and then Levi Klatt was as well.
Yeah.
And Levi broke his arm.
Yeah.
So hopefully Levi's on the mend.
It's too bad.
Yeah, that's
Mother Nature. So, what were you?
USAC Racing. I think they're at Kern. Kevin Harvick's Kern.
That sounds
Bakersfield, Kern, whatever they're calling it now. It's got like 6 names in there. But I want to say
results for
the USAC NOS Energy Drink National Midgets there, and I want to say they're at Kern middle of next week. Yeah, they're November 25th. Yep. So a week from yesterday. So next Tuesday.
Yeah.
So Tuesday night, there's some entertainment for you on Flow Racing.
We'll watch that.
This Friday and Saturday, they're at Merced. Yeah, so Tulare is supposed to be Friday. Now Merced will be Merced just in lieu of that.
Inherits that date.
Yep.
So, I like that.
appreciate that, Doug Lockwood. But like I said, the NARC schedule, PRI just around the corner, and that's really when we'll get. That's the first week of December or second week of December, so it's a week after the Dome. That's when we'll get. I imagine the Outlaw schedule will come out no later than then, because that was always dropped before PRI or before All Stars. That's when we always dropped ours before. Usually dropped it Black Friday, but at the latest PRI. USAC's 3 schedules will come out. Hopefully the NARC schedule by then. So we'll have plenty of schedules to go through on an episode to talk about what's going on in racing. So that'll be fun. But hope everyone enjoyed the chat with J-Van. Make sure you go check out Marshalltown Speedway on their Facebook page and marshalltownspeedway.com. Skagit Speedway, we dropped. Keep hammering on our YouTube channel, because we're dropping about 2. We'll drop another one before tomorrow, a throwback race. We dropped a June of 97 on Monday that hopefully soon-to-be National Sprint Car Hall of Famer Jimmy Carr picked up the 410 win that night, so you can check that out. You gave a reel for that as well.
It was good racing.
3 laps it was. So
it was a good race.
This morning, we finished adding 1986 into that library, so you'll see a spattering of 86. We had a 1982 Skagit Challenge race we just got recorded this morning.
Which looks cool. A lot of different interviews, it looks like, in there, and just different stuff.
And then when we came up here, we had 1979 to 1982
that's still recording,
Dirt Cup
isn't it?
review recording as we're doing this. So
those
are just a couple of more features that you might see on our YouTube channel in the coming months. We'll continue to do 1 to 2 a week. Maybe we might miss a week or 2 in there when I'm gone, but nonetheless, we'll get some scheduled in there, and that'll be fun. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We'll also post the links on all of our social media channels, and we hit with the shorts, we hit TikTok and YouTube Short and Instagram and Facebook with Reels. So we'll keep things coming your way. If you're a driver listening and you would like a shop interview,
we'd love to come
Erik
talk to you.
Love to get out and talk to you. I can join as well if needed, but info@skagitspeedway.com. Shoot us an email. We're going to look to do some partner interviews to interview some of our partner businesses, so you guys can learn more about some of our great partners at Skagit Speedway. So we're really going to keep content coming your way well throughout the coming months.
Plenty of good stuff to follow Skagit Speedway on YouTube and Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, TikTok, Twitter, all at Skagit Speedway. Plenty of fun off-season stuff coming the way.
And make sure to give Tulare Trophy Cup a follow as well, and NARC, all in the 26 Promotions family. Make sure to give those pages a follow, because I'm sure those groups will keep things coming your way as well. But going to be a fun couple of weeks here. I'll be in and out the next the next probably 6 weeks. There'll probably be in and out on you being a host with you, but you've done a fine job when I've not been here.
I'll get Caleb Hart to come join me, or we'll do it myself.
Or JY, or
we'll do
whoever.
Something. We'll have fun.
So that's going to be a
so
good
if you
time.
ever want to call in, we can do something like that too.
There we go. But Erik, we'll be back next week, maybe a little bit earlier, because next Thursday, Thanksgiving, but we'll work on a guest and get things lined up, and we'll have an episode for you next week. Hard to believe next week already the Michael Jordan episode, 23 next week.
Jeez, it's went quickly. Thank you everyone for listening to this week's edition of On the Gas, a Skagit Speedway podcast. We'll talk to you soon. Take care, everyone.